What going on, everybody? David Mitchell here, voice of Autism, episode 112. Mm-hmm. Episode 112. Up, dude, we've been crazy, and I mean crazy in a good way, but also a little like keep update on something that I've been talking about with the job interview and all that from Walmart. I'm supposed to have an interview, or not interview, but orientation on Monday, but they have not sent me any email or call it back yet. I'm going to or try to call them tomorrow to see what is going on. If I don't get any news back, then I might not have gotten a job. But if I do get any job news or any news on the orientation, if it is on Monday, then that'll be good. But I won't know until they email me or call me back. Yeah, and even though tomorrow is Sunday, I'm going to still try to see. But if I don't get any word back, then that means I don't get a job. But yeah. But I'll keep you guys updated on that. Also, 4 more days until Christmas. And I might get my haircut on Monday if I don't get any update on the interview. Or not the interview, but orientation. Sorry about that. I'm a little bit tired and a little bit sick. Probably the reason why you're hearing me, my voice that way, because I got a raw throat. My throat is raw. So, yeah. Anybody, please put that. Sorry, I have dogs in my room. I can't, have my voice clear for long because Ron will come back. Also, I got thrown a snowball. If you guys know from your day, my fiance Val is here in the U.S. She in technically she going to Las Vegas because she have relatives who live in Las Vegas too. So she right now smack dead in the middle of the desert. But yeah. But my fiance is here in the U.S. Her aunt sent me video of her singing karaoke in her aunt's car. Let me show you guys the video. But yeah. Let me find it real quick. That's my fiance singing. You can see the desert in the background. But they are on the interstate to Las Vegas. You guys know what I mean? But technically she can't sing karaoke in the car. Remember, don't sound a Filipino at karaoke. They will definitely whoop your butt. And I'm wearing hashtag Filipino. My fiance will want to send me to the church. But yeah. But she is spending time with her relatives who live in Las Vegas, and then after that, she'll be heading back to Los Angeles with her aunt and them. So yeah. Well, she's gonna be in Nevada with Chuckwee, meaning she'll be right near Rockies, but not in them yet. But yeah. A little tired, but it's like it's a but yeah. But it's been a crazy week. We have a lot more stuff going down. And I finally got trained around the 3 week. You guys probably seen in the video from 2 days ago. So yeah, I finally have it down. So yeah, not crazy. But it is amazing. But yeah, it's crazy. But my fiance is here in the U.S. and I gotta wait 3 weeks before I head over there, which I already am planning to do. If you guys know what I mean. But yeah. For people who don't know. Just know I am a little gassy right now, so if you hear me letting loose, that's probably because I am a little sick. But yeah. Technically, I did not even expect to get sick. But yeah. Speaking of that, I met the Stingray hockey team 2 days ago with Autism Network when we did a video for them. I'm thinking back for one more day on the 4th, so I might put it back because of the hockey team. So yeah, I might try to do that. But I am not sure. I'm probably going to talk to my fiance about that because they're asking it to be on with them on some dream. But I don't want to have that offer, but I might because of. But I'll see what go on and what my fiance think. So when I take that train, it will take about 4 days. It would take rest if the California scepter. Wait, or technically, since it limited to be more exact, went to its original destination with Jacksonville, Florida. But ever since 2005, that never did happen. So yeah, if it was that, it would have been 2 trains and it would have been a lot quicker. But no, it's going to take up 4 days. But 4 days on a train, I can take it. 4 days in a car, yeah. Besides, there's going to be Wi-Fi on the train. And I can easily do multiple video calls while heading there. But yeah, it's crazy. I'm sorry about yarn, guys, but it is technically 10 right now, be exact. But I am planning to move in the next 3 weeks. But I'm probably going to have to see from my able account, get money out or get ready because those train tickets, geez, they got expensive really fast. I'm hoping to be able to have stuff to be able to move to California. But yeah, and me and my fiance talk about staying in 2 different rooms or houses, well, for 3 weeks before we get married, before we can get used to dating before we get married. But yeah. But also when I'm there, if I don't get a job here, we'll be looking for a job there. Meaning less on video job, so video will slow down because of that in that case. But we'll find out in the next 3 weeks. But yeah, it's getting crazy, but it's not a good thing because more stuff happened in our life. But yeah. Now let's get to what we have on the blogs today. What pertain that we probably should talk about. Okay. You guys know I go after ABA therapy because of how bad it is. You guys know I do. But yeah.
Not a fan of the puzzle pieces being used for this site's logo, however. The post itself is gold. The Department of Defense reported to Congress on October 25, 2019 about comprehensive autism care that after 1 year of ABA treatment, 76% of those with autism had no change in symptoms and 9% worsened by more than one standard deviation. This reaffirms Navy Capt. Edward Simmer, Chief Clinical Officer of the TRICARE Health Plan, statement in November 2018 that the effectiveness of applied behavioral techniques for autism remains unproven. Year after year, the data says the same thing. The report cautions using their scoring methods as an overall view on how effective ABA is, though we all know it's a load of ableist, ego-driven nonsense. They expect a more comprehensive report in 2023. While it may not happen overnight, ABA is hopefully on its way out as more and more people recognize how useless and even harmful it can be. P.S. I should have mentioned the language used in the report isn't exactly respectful toward autistic folks, Sue. Be warned, I guess.
That oop and it pissed off to me. Let's see how bad it is.
U.S. government reports that ABA doesn't work. Posted by admin tags, there is no tags, categories, Autism 101. November 24. The Department of Defense reported to Congress on October 25, 2019 about comprehensive autism care that after 1 year of ABA treatment, 76% of those with autism had no change in symptoms and 9% worsened by more than one standard deviation. This reaffirms Navy Capt. Edward Simmer, Chief Clinical Officer of the TRICARE Health Plan, statement in November 2018 that the effectiveness of applied behavioral techniques for autism remains unproven. Year after year, the data says the same thing. Read the report. TRICARE Autism Report download. To understand some of the reasoning why ABA does not work, please read the peer-reviewed research web links.
But it is a good thing that it finally proved that this shit don't work on it and how harmful and abusive it is.
What's the difference between ABA and masking? It's applied behavior, not a natural behavior, or in other words, it's just masking technique which are trained to app leaders. If I am not wrong, only parents are forcing it on their children because they don't have a say on it. Naturally, they will start masking. And the irony is that those who have learned to mask are being said, "You don't look autistic." Who invented this ABA shit? We will mask, we will apply these shit on ourselves, and we TK this shit, and you ABA trainer will get paid for this. It's a money-making technique where we work hard and that they get benefited.
ABA is actually a fraud, and it is abusive. It's a crime, and people who do it, who promote it up, to be in prison. But yeah.
What's your favorite neurodiversity, autism-related book? I'm doing a blog post and I'm crowdsourcing. I hope that's okay. I've gotten a few questions about this and I haven't read many books on the topic, so I'm really interested to see what people have to recommend.
But yeah, it's crazy.
Update on the app post. I decided not to continue with the project and start a very different one from scratch because of the following reasons that I took a long time to consider. 1. Many of you have asked me if I'm autistic. Frankly, as far as I know, I'm not. This is a valid question to ask because I'm pitching an app for autistic people. I can see that if a neurotypical ally made the app rather than an autistic person, it may not be as effective as I want it to be, even if I take autistic voices into account. 2. Related to point 1, many of you have told me to hire an autistic designer. I don't have a problem paying them, but I decided not to do this idea for a different reason.
Oh, you're a freaking idiot for that.
If I paid an autistic designer to help me make an app for autistic people, it would feel like the equivalent of Disney buying a creator's work. It just would not feel right to say that I and this person made the app together, when inevitably their input as an autistic person and their expertise as a designer means that this is their work and not mine. Don't get me wrong. I will do my fair share of the work, but I know that even my fair share will not enough.
You do got a point.
Again, I'm not autistic, not a designer. I only have the idea, and paying someone to help me make my idea and calling it my own would be very immoral and unethical. I would also rather that the first app for autistic people in the US be solely made by an autistic designer and not by an holistic OTA student. Autistic tech made by autistic people will always be more effective than what an allistic person makes for autistic people.
That is true.
Therefore, my next idea for my school project won't be a fabrication made for autistic people but for a different population. Again, I always thank you for your input. After reading your comments, I feel that this is the best decision for everyone.
That'll be good. That'll be a good decision.
Urgent announcement, please read and share our past International Naturally Autistic People Awards, Convention and Festival. Anka World Autism Festival O is in need of a living liver donor. Time is running out. Please share. Do we teach as many people as possible? We never know what will see the post and be his living donor. Thank you, my friends. XX less than 3.
Okay, let's see what the post is talking about.
Urgent health update. Hi everyone. The transplant coordinator at Mount Sinai has asked me to find more candidates to be tested if the current tester isn't approved for my living liver donor transplant. So many of you have kindly responded with apologies for not meeting the criteria. I understand and thank you, but not necessary. The criteria is blood type A plus or RO, ages 18 to 55 years old, non-smoker, healthy, etc. I'm running out of time, so please share with anyone you think could do this. Please messenger me to get more information. Red Heart Kenny Moyer.
I might try to see if I can help. Because human, we have 2 kidneys, and I'm healthy, and I might actually be that.
I'm not sure if I'll be able to phrase this correctly, and it might turn out to be the most normal thing, so I apologize in advance. Does anyone here, autistic or not, also have that thing where every once in a while their thought process becomes really repetitive and kind of more like a dialogue? Like sometimes my brain will just start thinking the same thoughts over and over again and also just put them into a daydream-like context of me talking to someone, interview, psychologist, famous person, blog post, etc., except it's not an actual daydream or anything and I can't really control it. I remember before my autism diagnosis, I would imagine myself talking to the professional about whatever I was thinking at the moment, autism related or not. This went on for months and I would probably do it at least once a day. Right now I was stuck in a loop thinking about how weird I find this, my thoughts repeating themselves, but like I was writing this post. I was unable to think about other things and just continuously rephrased the text in my head.
But yeah.
In case it's relevant, I'm diagnosed autistic with a history of anxiety and depression, but no other known mental health issues. Also, this post is open to anyone because it might as well be that anyone does that and I just don't know because I have barely any idea about my brain, let alone anyone else's.
But yeah. That I have to understand.
In your opinion, what falls under the neurodivergent umbrella? I don't mean to include or exclude anyone unnecessarily, I am just wondering. BCI created a club for neurodivergent students and a lot of PPL asked me what neurodivergent is. Edit, I got my answer, so I'm gonna turn off commenting. Hi, my name is Nina. I was diagnosed with Asperger's as a child, but my parents never informed me of it. I'm 21 now and I found out about my diagnosis last year and was officially re-diagnosed with ASD this past week. My parents sent me to a babysitter with an autistic grandson who taught me how to recognize facial expressions, how to express my feelings, and more ways to accept myself and learn how to do my ADLs like picking clothing fabrics I like and helping me learn to cook for myself. I'm learning to love myself as I am and unlearning all of my masking skills. Edit, I put Asperger's in quotes because it isn't real and is harmful, but it was my first official diagnosis. Now I'm just autistic and happy.
And I'm slowly getting there. It's a little bit hard because I'm now saying I'm autistic because I am my feelings develop autistic. But yeah.
CW, #bleach cult, #MMS. This is my translation into English of a French article about exploring the bleach business. Feel free to share it. Link to the original article. Web links. Bleach quack cult. The underground of so-called miracle treatment for autism MMS. In the waiting of medical improvement in regard to autism, so-called miracle treatments made their appearance throughout the internet. The most concerning one is called MMS for Miracle Mineral Solution, made from chlorine dioxide. Autism, a complex behavior. Improvement in regard to autism. In the waiting of medical improvement in regard to autism, so-called web links. Bleach quack cult. The underground of so-called miracle treatment for autism MMS. In the waiting of medical improvement in regard to autism, so-called miracle treatments made their appearance throughout the internet. The most concerning one is called MMS for Miracle Mineral Solution, made from chlorine dioxide. Compliment Anki attempted to know what hides behind this bleach cure. Autism, a complex behavioral disorder, affects at least 700,000 people in France. In the waiting of medical improvement in regard to autism, so-called miracle treatments made their appearance throughout the internet. The most concerning one is called MMS for Miracle Mineral Solution, made from chlorine dioxide. It is supposed to cure autism by destroying its parasites in the intestines. In reality, drinking this product is the same as drinking bleach. Are alerting the European and U.S. health authorities. A cult funded by a Scientology veteran.
Scientology. One of those bad type people. These suckers, we need to start criminalizing them for what they are. If we don't, they're going to keep on getting away with this type of shit. Just think about it. Just need to quit. Just think about it. If we don't stop it from happening, because it is very harmful.
MMS Origins is the Genesis 2 church created by U.S. citizen Jim Humble. Far from being a doctor, it's a former Scientologist, explains a mother of an autistic child who is crusading against this quack cure. His church would be more like a cult, which is pretending to heal humanity with bleach. Compliment Anki wanted curable thanks to this harmless treatment.
Worse than the Nazis. What I
Compliment Anki wanted to met one of these bishops, located at about 1 hour from Dublin, in the middle of the countryside. The famous church looks like a junkyard building. The man was giving his preach and proposed to be interviewed at the cost of 10,000 euros per hour. The magazine didn't proceed it further in the idea. A protocol using chlorine dioxide. However, MMS' most famous promoter is a former home-selling agent mother of an autistic child. Nowadays she pretends on her website that autism is curable thanks to this harmless treatment. She's offering 120 United States dollars per hour consultations, including a protocol kit consisting in swallowing chlorine dioxide multiple times a day for months. In 2019, Amazon banned from their sellings her book. YouTube also deleted her videos promoting MMS. However, on social networks, pseudo treatments are still appealing to new adherents.
What we need to put walls in that criminalize each other parents and people do it. We need to criminalize it to send a message to them saying, enough is enough. Autistic are going to criminalize you for what you do to us. If we don't, it's going to keep happening. Literally. The bleaching types up need to quit.
Merry Xmas. Unamused face, unamused face, unamused face, unamused face. Christmas tree Santa Claus wrap gift. Coming from UK's Parent Flakes. Image, a true cringe fest of an Xmas decoration crown made of multicolored puzzle pieces with the white letters text reading, when you mistake the jigsaw puzzle Xmas gift with the Xmas decoration.
Yeah, I already seen it. I don't want to bring that awkwardness, but yeah.
Is the human brain, with all its problem-solving prowess and creative ability, powerful enough to understand itself? Nothing in the known universe, with the exception of the universe itself, is more complex. The brain contains about 100 billion nerve cells, or neurons, each of which can communicate with thousands of other brain cells. Because we primates are primarily visual creatures, perhaps the best way for us to make sense of the brain is to see it clearly. That has been the goal for 125 years, since the Spanish scientist Santiago Ramón y Cajal began using a stain that marked individual neurons. He peered through a microscope at the stained cells and the branch-like projections with which they connected to other neurons. Here everything was simple, clear, and unconfused, he wrote of his observations, the beginning of modern neuroscience. Scientists have since devised methods for determining the specific tasks in which different brain regions specialize. For example, some neurons devoted to processing sight detect only horizontal lines, while others sense danger or produce speech. Researchers have created maps delineating how brain regions not
I thought I
adjacent
had
to
a
one
dog.
another are connected by long tracts of cellular projections called axons. The newest microscope techniques reveal neurons changing shape in
Mhm.
response to experience, potentially recording a memory. The ability to see the brain in a fresh light has given rise to a wealth of insights in the past few decades. Now scientists' forays into this universe are being put to a different use, as art objects. Carl Schoonever, a neuroscientist in training at Columbia University, has collected intriguing images of the brain for a new book, Portraits of the Mind, Abrams. They are real data, not artists' renditions, he says. This is what neuroscientists are looking at in their microscopes, MRI machines, or electrophysiology systems. Neuroscience exists because of these techniques. By borrowing a gene from fluorescent jellyfish and inserting it into the DNA of worms or mice in the lab, scientists have made neurons glow. Cahal's staining technique worked only on post-mortem tissue, and it marked neurons randomly, but the new dyes have enabled scientists to study neurons in living animals and tissues, Joshua Saines of Harvard University notes in an essay in the book. One of the newest methods relies on a gene that makes algae sensitive to light. Shining a light on neurons containing the gene can change their behavior. The advances allow us to manipulate the activities of individual cells and cell types using beams of light, writes Terence Sejnowski of the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. The brain remains mysterious, but the patterns in these images, rich whorls of neural connections, unexpected symmetries, and layers of structure, encourage scientists to believe they will yet decipher it. For his part, Schoonever hopes to make readers think it's worth trying to figure out what the images are and why they are so beautiful. Add Laura Helmuth.
I find that interesting, but yeah. But we gotta be careful.
Meltdowns, shutdowns, and autistic burnout. Day 17. For those who don't much about it, I'd like to explain to you sensory hypersensitivity, sensory overwhelm, and meltdowns from a first-person perspective. Our sensory sensitivities wield a great deal of power as they can push us to overwhelm and meltdown as well as bring us an abundance of joy. On the other hand, there could be hyposensitivity in a sensory area such as having a very high pain tolerance or not being able to smell strong odors.
That is true. And I'll admit that. But yeah, I could.
The ASPERGIAN. For hashtag Allautistics, hashtag Neurolurkers, and hashtag Neurodiversity. Primary navigation menu. Home. What is autism? Justice. Living life. Creative. About US. Donate. Sensory survival, living with hypersensitivity, overwhelm, and MELTDOWNS 8-minute read. For those who don't much about it, I'd like to explain to you sensory
8-minute
hypersensitivity, sensory overwhelm, and meltdowns from a first-person perspective. Our sensory sensitivities wield a great deal of power as they can push us to overwhelm and meltdown as well as bring us an abundance of joy. On the other hand, there could be hyposensitivity in a sensory area such as having a very high pain tolerance or not being able to smell strong odors.
True.
The more I have learned about autism, the more I have recognized and understood myself and aspects of my instincts that I didn't before. I have always been deemed as highly sensitive to pain and physical contact. I struggle with bright lights and noise. I hate swaying or spinning motion. I cannot cope in big crowds where there are a lot of competing noises, and my sense of smell is often overpowering. When every sound is a cannon blast. When someone says that they have a sensory sensitivity, it is a common misconception that they mean that their awareness is just more acute, more focused. The reality of sensory sensitivity is that the sensory input is so greatly intensified that it can become all-encompassing and overwhelming in a short period of time unless the person is able to take measures to reduce the overwhelm or remove the offending sensory input. It often causes the person experiencing it to not be able to take in any other input at that time or think of anything other than the stimuli that is overwhelming them. Some autistics that have hypersensitivity to touch can be caused physical pain when they are touched, no matter how lightly. Their brain misinterprets the signals from the touch and causes the pain reaction.
It's crazy.
When I am in a crowd, even if it is just in a shopping center, it feels like the noise is so loud and imposing that it is all I can think about and feel. It is like the intensity of the world has been turned to its highest setting, and it feels like I have dozens of people in my personal space, all talking loudly at the same time with me floundering to understand what they are all saying.
Mm-hmm.
This is the start of overwhelm. It feels like my brain is being squeezed and all of my muscles tense up. My heart races fast and my breathing quickens. At this point, I lose the ability to think straight and my thoughts sound like they are overlapping and nonsensical. This is when the fight or flight response kicks in and everything in my mind and body are screaming at me to run. To get out. To get away from this stimuli as fast as humanly possible. The other side of this coin is the fight mode, where someone is so desperate for the stimuli and all of the sensations to stop that they lash out and push, kick, scream anything in order to make it all stop.
Mm-hmm.
Overwhelm can happen with any sensory sensitivity, whether it be sound, taste, touch, vestibular, proprioceptive, or interoceptive, all of which are triggered in different ways in correlation to the individual sensitivities.
Very accurate.
Depending on where your anxiety and sensory sensitivity levels are on a given day, the speed at which overwhelm occurs differs based on how rested a person is and how they are feeling emotionally and physically. If someone's levels are high, overwhelm will occur much more quickly. If someone is unable to self-regulate or decrease the overwhelm, then a meltdown can occur.
Mm-hmm.
Meltdowns are often mistaken for tantrums in children, as they will throw themselves around, scream, cry, or lash out much like they would during a tantrum. The big difference between the two is the cause of the outburst.
Mm-hmm.
A tantrum often occurs because a child is not getting their way, whereas a meltdown happens because the child is so overwhelmed that the fight or flight response has kicked in and they have not been able to self-regulate to calm themselves or be removed from the stimuli. Pro tip: if you give a child what he or she wants and the fit is over, it was a tantrum. On the other hand, a child in a meltdown can't regulate those emotions even when you offer everything you can think of to make it stop. Even offering might worsen the distress because you're adding more sensory input. A meltdown is a desperate, anxiety-ridden experience, and the child or adult suffering through it has little to no control over how they are feeling at that moment because their survival instinct to fight or flight is in overdrive. I recently experienced a meltdown, a relatively mild one, and it was an exceptionally frightening and distressing experience. I was overwhelmed and unable to remove myself from the overwhelming stimuli. I was stimming to try to self-regulate, but it wasn't working. Suddenly it felt like the walls were closing in on me. My head was spinning, I couldn't think straight, I started hyperventilating, and I could barely talk. I felt completely helpless to these feelings, and I just wanted to climb out of my skin and run away as fast as I could. I sobbed and had no idea why. I had no feeling of panic, but it felt like my whole body and mind were screaming, though I couldn't understand what they wanted or how to make it better. It was a sobering experience, as it reminded me firsthand of what my son and all other autistic children and adults experience. It feels nothing like a tantrum when you are living that moment yourself. Once overwhelm or a meltdown has passed, the person who has experienced it often feels completely drained of energy. An accompanying headache is also common, as is the lingering feeling that everything they are experiencing is too much for them to handle. They're exhausted. They often need to hide away from the world to allow their sensory system levels to return to a much lower state before they can attempt to be exposed to any overwhelming stimuli again. There is a phrase in the autistic world which is known as social hangover. This occurs when the autistic person has socialized, and although they may not have reached a high state of overwhelm or meltdown, they need to rest and give themselves self-care in order to recover from the social event. It feels very much like a sensory hangover. There are different techniques and apparatuses that can be used to help calm a person who is experiencing overwhelm or a meltdown.
That is true.
A dark, quiet room with a light projector that projects swirling colors or an image on the ceiling or wall helps, as it removes most of the stimuli from the outside world, and watching the peaceful, flowing lights or colors helps. Other good tools are bubble tubes or bubble walls. Watching the bubbles float and bounce their way to the top of the tube or wall is very calming. Another commonly used tool is noise-reducing headphones or earplugs that will greatly decrease the level of auditory sensory input that someone is experiencing. One thing is imperative: never, unless there is literally no other option available, ever restrain an autistic person whilst they are in a state of fight or flight, in overwhelm, in meltdown, or any other time, for that matter. One thing that is very, very common in autistics is that we abhor being restrained or held against our will. All restraint will achieve is causing a great deal more stress, anxiety, and overwhelm to the individual, and if they are not already in meltdown, this is a surefire way of getting them to that point. One technique that is very effective, I have found with my son, is using a sensory diet at home as well as seeing an occupational sensory therapist once a week. With this, the individual does specific exercises or activities that reduce and calm their sensory system. If this is done every day, especially before a social event or a situation where they will be exposed to overwhelming stimuli, it will enable them to be able to cope for longer and will lengthen the time that overwhelm takes to occur. Living with hypersensitivity can be hard, and it can greatly limit the options you have when planning activities, social events, or even a trip to the shops. However, there are many wonderful benefits to living with hypersensitivity. If it is in your visual sensory system, you can get lost in the beauty in the world, such as trees, artwork, sunsets, etc. If it is auditory, you can find true bliss in music or be able to hear a greater distance with clarity. With taste, you can pick up even the most subtle ingredient in a meal. You get my point. As with most things in life, there is a balance, the yin and yang, so to speak. When you experience the world with sensory intensity, you have both the ability to feel ecstatic joy at the simplest things as well as to be crushed by overwhelm. I personally would not want my sensory sensitivities to be dulled or reduced. A walk in the forest brings me such peace and happiness. Simply by looking at the trees and the different shades of green in their leaves, the fresh scent of the woodland, and listening to the birds and squirrels living their lives, it's a magical experience that I would never want to be without. So please do not focus on the negatives. Yes, they can have a big impact on your or your loved one's life. But the negatives can be lessened with techniques or tools. They can be supported by knowing situations or stimuli to avoid, by using a sensory diet, or by using items that you can transport with you, such as noise-reducing headphones or tactile toys, like squishies, glittery toys, or objects that spin. The thing to focus on is the happiness sensory hypersensitivity can bring. Go to the places or have the experiences that bring you joy and comfort. Celebrate the things that you can feel that the majority of the population cannot, and do self-care activities often to keep your sensory system calm. Thanks for reading. Now go enjoy the world.
I had that happen to me before, but yeah, this actually does happen to people who don't pay attention. Like,
What's your favorite neurodiversity, autism related book? I'm doing a blog post and I'm crowdsourcing. I hope that's okay. I've gotten a few questions about this and I haven't read many books on the topic, so I'm really interested to see what people have to recommend.
But it is crazy. And yes, I need to get my
Update on the app post. I decided not to continue.
Oh, or we sorry about that. But I am feeling a little tired, but yeah. But yeah, it's crazy. No, let me pick up my laptop. That my dog. But yeah, it's crazy. But it's a crazy.
Looking for education for sex ed for young teens. Would prefer online, some type of curriculum, etc. We are exploring Scarletine right now, have used Amaze in the past and just need something with great relationship advice. Would love something specifically for autistic folks, as most relationship advice doesn't cover a lot of how autistics need to accommodate for NTs. One kiddo is exploring the idea of dating in a year or so, and we would like to have some info.
Okay, from my advice, make sure it's somebody that is near their age, not too old or not too young. Like, my advice is somebody either 4 years older than them if they are 18, and somebody sometime at the same age as them, or if they're a lot older than that, like in their 20s, about 2 years younger, you go farther back, but it depends on who they are attracted to. 1 minute. But yeah. But it's crazy. Like, for people who don't know, it's a crazy gene.
For anyone unfamiliar with TRICARE, it is the medical insurance the government offers to military families. While this letter doesn't say they will stop paying for ABA, it is at least being looked at, and the statistics mentioned can help with the debate. 76% over a 12-month period had little to no symptom improvement, and 9% had symptoms worsen.
So it's going to be a victory for the autistic community way. Hell yeah. Fighting back until it's enough is enough. Like, if we keep it up, we're going to get that method out, and we're not dealing with your bullshit anymore. Like, we keep on fighting. Standing up to what we believe in.
Meltdowns, shutdowns, and autistic burnout. Day 16. FM, there has so far been very little research on autistic burnout, although it is something autistic people have been talking about for a long time. Why do you suppose that is?
Well, let me, because people keep on messaging me during the live stream. So, sorry about that, guys. But it do happen. Which it actually is happening right now. But yeah. I took my jump out of snoring in there. But yeah, it's crazy. No, I'm not giving her Christmas presents yet from last year. She already know what her Christmas presents from last year are. But I want to give them to her in person in the next couple of weeks from now.
Thinking Person's Guide to Autism. Autism news and resources from autistic people, professionals, and parents. Home mission resources about.
Be right back. I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm back. Both of my parents are snoring in the room. But
resources about comment policy contributors, useful autism organizations, neurodiversity FAQ. Thursday, August 29th, 2019. Autistic burnout, an interview with researcher Dora Raymaker. Dora Raymaker is a researcher, writer, and artist based in Portland, Oregon. She is co-director of the Academic Autism Spectrum Partnership in Research and Education, AASPIRE, with Christina Nicolaitis. AASPIRE is currently running a pilot study on autistic burnout and suicidal behavior. Autistic people have often talked about burnout, and it emerged as a major theme in their previous study on autism and skilled employment, but up to now, it has received limited attention from researchers.
Need to get more
Fergus
attention.
Murray interviewed Dora for Thinking Person's Guide to Autism. Photo courtesy Dora Raymaker. Image Dora Raymaker, a white person with curly shoulder-length red hair with one teal locked glasses, and a steady gaze. FM, could you summarize what autistic burnout means to you? Doctor, the question evokes for me the impacts of autistic burnout on my own life, like, it means feeling my abilities and successes slip away and being powerless to stop it. But I think it is more asking, how would you define autistic burnout? I think that's an important frame for the rest of the conversation. We're still a finalized analysis away from coming up with a definition grounded in research, but a fair start at an operational definition might be a state of pervasive exhaustion, loss of function, increase in autistic traits, and withdrawal from life that results from continuously expending more resources than one has coping with activities and environments ill-suited to one's abilities and needs. In other words, autistic burnout is the result of being asked to continuously do more than one is capable of without sufficient means for recovery. FM, there has so far been very little research on autistic burnout, although it is something autistic people have been talking about for a long time.
And actually,
why do you suppose that is?
it.
Doctor, autism research, until fairly recently, has been mostly directed by non-autistic researchers, professionals, and family members whose priorities may be different from, or not fully inclusive of, the priorities of autistic people. Add on top of that a still pervasive medical model of autism in the research world, disability as a disease to be cured, rather than disability as a divergence to be supported, which makes it even harder to get through the barriers between what we've been talking about wanting and what autism research is actually examining. This is a complicated topic I could probably spend the whole interview on, so I'll stop my geekery about it there, lol. Anyway, I'm hopeful that we'll have more research about autistic burnout, possibly disability burnout, in the future. Autistic people have more voice in research than we used to, from the policy level to the participant level.
True.
Also, I'm anticipating the surge of work into connected topics, such as camouflaging and mental health, will bring autistic burnout more into the awareness of the research community. FM, how do you see the relationships between burnout and other experiences often reported by autistic people, meltdowns, shutdowns, sensory overwhelm, and catatonia? Doctor, these other experiences are distinct states from burnout, but people report experiencing them far more often when also in a state of burnout.
True
if we consider autistic burnout as a reduction in resources to cope with activities and environments that were already difficult, including by camouflaging and all the negative consequences of that, then it makes sense that a person would be left with less ability to tune out sensory stimulus, breathe through their trauma reaction, or otherwise avoid the triggers for these other states. Nearly everyone we've spoken with in our research cited increased instances of these experiences as a consequence of the burnout. FM, have you been able to show what some effective strategies for coping with or avoiding burnout might look like? Doctor, we asked people in our interviews what strategies help them avoid or recover from burnout. We also looked at social media, where people have been sharing strategies. The community has also been compiling this information, and there are some good resources out there, like this guide from Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, on. I recently did a talk at Seattle Children's Hospital on the research, and the slides from that talk also list a number of the strategies. You can get the slides here, and the talk should be available on YouTube at some point. Until then, it was recorded on Facebook, and you can view it there. The TL. Doctor version, being accepted for who you are as an autistic person and supported by others, being able to act autistic and do things that fuel you, like engage in special interests, taking time off, and having a reduction in expectations to do things in the same way as non-autistic people are some of the primary things that help. FM, many autistic adults report that they only realized they were autistic or only received professional help after experiencing burnout. Some may have talked to specialists before this and been denied a diagnosis because they were not seen as sufficiently impaired. Do you think it might help some people to avoid burnout if it was easier to be formally identified as autistic without insisting that someone's autism must limit or impair everyday functioning?
The answer is yes. Do got a point. Like, just think about it. If we work on it, it can actually help.
Doctor, yes, absolutely. Even just realizing that you're probably diagnosable could be helpful because it gives you access to community wisdom and the strategies people use. However, if the dynamic of autistic burnout really is related to spending more resources coping than one has, I'm not sure the real leverage in avoiding burnout resides with the autistic person alone. Especially because a number of the strategies people have to avoid or recover from burnout involve being able to act more autistic, being accepted as autistic, and getting support and accommodations, all things that require the cooperation of others. So we need to also be looking at ways to make neurodivergence more accepted and less stigmatizing, as well as ways for services to become more inclusive of supporting autistic people who appear to be functioning well. Knowing you're on the spectrum alone isn't, in my opinion, going to fix this. FM, some have suggested parallels between autistic burnout and chronic fatigue syndrome. Do you think this is likely to be a fruitful connection to explore in future research? Doctor, I'm not a clinician and don't have interest in clinical research. However, there are clinicians like Christina on my research team. Her impression from descriptions of autistic burnout are that it's likely a different thing from CFS, although one could certainly be experiencing both, and that addressing autistic burnout directly is probably going to help more people than looking for a possible relationship between it and CFS. That said, it could be research for someone else with interest in that area to explore. FM, you've completed the first stage of your study, interviewing 10 autistic people about their experiences of burnout. Did any surprising themes emerge in these interviews? Doctor, since many of the people on our research team have been part of the autistic community for years where autistic burnout is frequently discussed, I'm not sure that there were any particularly surprising themes to us. One of the themes that might be most surprising to the general public is that some things they might think are good for autistic people, learning to emulate mainstream social behavior, appearing to overcome autistic traits, things like that may actually be hurtful in the long term.
It is.
I think it makes sense if a person thinks about it. If you were asked to pretend to be something you're not constantly out of fear of negative, possibly life-threatening consequences, and it was very difficult to do, how long could you keep it up? I think it might surprise some people how close autistic burnout is in a lot of ways to professional burnout, or to caregiver burnout, or something else that they might have experienced themselves. FM, you plan to develop tools to measure burnout in the second part of your study. How might you go about measuring something like that, and what sorts of uses do you foresee for it? Doctor, measurement is a whole field of research in itself. This study is using a mixed methods approach to create a survey. That means first we're doing this qualitative part to understand what ideas, or constructs, might need to go into a survey to measure autistic burnout. We're putting together the symptoms of burnout that people talked about in their interviews, on the blog posts, in the community to create a draft of that measure. Then we'll be trying the survey out with a small number of participants. They'll take the survey, along with some additional surveys, and be able to give some written feedback. We can then run statistics on the results to start validating the measure. We can learn things like, does the survey contain the right constructs? Do the sections of the survey group together well? Is there an expected relationship between scores on the autistic burnout survey and another survey?
I'm feeling tired.
For example, do people with high burnout scores also have low self-efficacy scores, since people in our interviews talked about a loss of self-confidence when in autistic burnout? These are all parts of validating a measure. Then we refine the measure and test again. As far as uses, there are many. Two big ones related to the work I'm most interested in are, 1, it can be used to tell if someone is experiencing autistic burnout, which could then change how services or supports relate to that person. 2, if anyone creates an intervention, or a program of some sort to help prevent or relieve autistic burnout, a measure will be needed to know if the intervention is working. In other words, you need to be able to measure it to know if you have changed it. FM, what's next for AASPIRE? Doctor, a lot. We have multiple projects, including our ongoing work on issues such as healthcare and employment, and a new branch of AASPIRE starting up in Australia. You can visit auspire.org to see some of what we're up to. As far as the burnout research, the next steps after finishing up this study are 1, to publish papers in the academic and clinical literature to start getting the word out, and 2, to apply for new funding to further test the measure and begin exploring further how autistic burnout impacts people's lives, so that we can start working toward creating an intervention to prevent or relieve it, as well as giving others tools to do the same.
I found it pretty good, but yeah. I deal with burnout a lot. Trust me, it happens a lot.
Huge update. I decided not to continue with this idea because, simply put, it's not my place to make this product. It's an autistic designer's place. Hopefully the mod admin will approve the post that I've made that explains this reason in detail. Edit, guys, I just learned that a member of this group helped design the Designing for Autistic Users poster, and that's hella cool. Hey guys. I'm working on an app for autistic people that helps them prevent a meltdown before it starts. Are there any features that you would want this app to have do? The pictures are related, but also to get attention. I also verified that there's no app with the purpose I described. Most of them are for parents with autistic children. There's barely any apps for autistic adults. Some apps, unfortunately, are ABBA-based. This app is for a project that is due in Feb. Realistic goal-wise, I'm hoping to turn in a beta version or just simplified version of the app. So autistic community, what features do you want this app to have do? Thank you for your input as always. I appreciate your feedback and voice.
But yeah, I found that pretty smart, but ABA therapy is horrible. You gotta know I got a bone to pick when it comes to ABA therapy and what it is, and how bad it is for people who don't know. But yeah, it's crazy, but if you did think about it, how abusive and how horrible some of the stuff that they do to it is, it's pretty bad.
Dear all, I am very curious to understand how autistic people process language. If anyone can elaborate their journey of understanding and using language from their young age to adulthood, it would be really helpful for me as a mother of autistic child.
And the train going by.
If I speak any sentence to my child, he looks confused and does not do what I tell him. For instance, if I'd say wear shoes, he removes shoes if he has wear one shoe and other is out. It's puzzling to me. Could anyone help me understand so that I can be fair to my child? Thank you.
Okay. Then when I'm a little bit 13, every autistic learn in different languages and ways. But yeah.
Hello, autistic friends and allies. A friend recently asked me if I know of any good books for moms of autistic children. I don't believe I've read any books specifically for moms of autistic children. But I think self-help can be a step in the right direction. Does anyone have any recommendations that might specifically steer her away from autism momism?
That would probably be good idea to get some help. But yeah. It's crazy, but did think about it.
Alternatives to ABBA. Before you do anything, 1. Love and accept your child. Know your child is fully whole, human, and has a wonderful life ahead. 2. Listen to autistic people. 3. Understand the purpose of ABBA is to train autistic children to pretend they are non-autistic, so when you ask for alternatives, be clear what you're looking for. 4. Remember, autistics are different in our development. Don't panic if we don't know how to do something at 4 that non-autistic do. Chances are that non-autistic kids don't know how to do things that we can. We develop differently, so measuring us off non-autistic milestones is nonsensical. So now you want a way to help your child with what? Sensory, occupational therapist, or find things to distract. Distraction from offensive sensory input can stop sensory overload or help the autistic community with its campaigns to change our environment, then we wouldn't have sensory overload at all. Behaviors. Listen to autistic people who can explain all of this to you. Behavior is communication. Stimming is part of our language and part of our learning process. Challenging behaviors should not be happening. If they are, then something is radically wrong in your child's life. It's either sensory or emotional. This can be caused by someone misinterpreting them continually because they are not listening to autistic people or by the sensory environment. Understanding your child and studying their language will teach you what you need to change. Meltdowns have nothing to do with being autistic. Every human being melts down under severe stress. If meltdowns are happening, then it's up to you to find the stressors and remove them permanently. Speech therapy can help, or you can begin to learn about autistic language and culture so that you can learn your child's language instead of putting them through years of therapy. Autistics communicate all the time, others just don't interpret our language. Stimming is part of our language, as is posture, gesture, movements, and sounds, same as every other human. There are lots of AAC devices on the market. AAC users recommend you start teaching them early on. Everyone has the right to communicate. Play. Autistics play in autistic ways. That's why autistics become experts, inventors, and are natural problem solvers and environmental communicators. There is no need to teach your child to play.
That's true.
Engaging. Make it interesting or join in with what we're doing. It's important to remember that communication for some of us is not a transfer of information or words. It is sharing a space and time with another. We are engaging just by being. This should be respected. Words are our second language, so it's important you remember that. Learning skills. We learn things best when the motivation comes from within, when there is an actual need for us to learn to do something. Also, we may do things differently, but they'll serve the same purpose, and that's okay. We learn best by experiencing, thinking, touching, figuring out, and stimming is
Mhm.
actually part of our learning process.
Not true.
We stim to store the learning, we stim while we're
Mhm.
processing or figuring out. We stim to recall our learnings. Stimming is not just for self-regulation.
Mhm.
Learning, like everything we do, is an emotional process for us. This is why we have special interests or passions. We need a rich and full understanding, and we need to know the reason why we have to learn certain things. If it's not logical, then good luck trying to make us learn it.
Mhm.
Social skills. Autistics have social skills. We have our own language and culture, so we don't need to become someone else. We do need some help with non-autistic language and culture, so we can learn about that the same way we'd learn about any other language and culture. Through role play, games, and figuring stuff out. It's important that our autisticity is respected at all times as a valid culture and language, and that you realize that processing delays are often just me translating your language into mine and then back into yours so you can understand.
Mm-hmm.
Building confidence and self-belief. Look for activities that your child enjoys and will thrive at. Drama, music, art, dance, Lego, horse riding. The list is endless. Autistic kids can do activities too. Everything doesn't have to be a therapy. Peers. Find other autistic people. We tend to get on with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Also, some of us can enjoy the company of older or younger kids. I'm 42. My friends range from 22 to 65. Why do 8-year-old kids have to only be friends with other 8-year-olds? Anything else?
Mm-hmm. Not true, but yeah. There's actually a train coming. Wait, you guys can probably hear that. Yep, it's a train that's actually coming. But the thing about it, every autistic is different. Not a train that I can hear. You guys probably can't hear it, but there's the horn. But yeah, the thing about it in a way, but every autistic run in their own different way, and I have friends from a ton of age range, and that's the reason why I am able to find somebody that I care about and love too. My fiance Phil. For people who don't know, he's 3 years older than me. But yeah, my fiance is 3 years older than me. If you did think about it. 30p on that trend I can hear. But it's crazy. But amazing too also. But it did something that I did think about every day. And with me and my fiance Phil, we'll be moving in together in the next couple of weeks from now. And you get it very soon. It's gonna be amazing. But yeah. And for those people who want to go to my fiance YouTube channel, to watch some of her video, the link to her YouTube channel down in the description down below. But yeah, for people who want to go watch her video, they're there. And it's crazy, but yeah. But it's amazing, and it's something I did found amazing. But yeah. But it's something I'm looking forward to, and yeah. Also, I will probably do another live stream on Christmas Day. So there might be two more live streams before the end of the year. So yeah. And it's gonna be crazy, and it's something I'm thinking about. That there will be probably two more videos before that, and also when I'm on the trip to California, they're gonna be all about mini series on the way there. So yeah, that's something I'm gonna look forward to. But yeah, and it's amazing. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. I hope you found it informational, motivational, and all the above. And everybody having a Christmas holiday or just winter vacation or aka winter break. I hope you guys are enjoying it, and I hope everybody having a Merry Christmas. I really do, and I'll talk to you guys later. Signing out. Bye, guys.